Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm on vacation, so I have time to do
Welcome
these.
to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear.
Excuse me, I had to adjust the volume, so bear with me. Yeah, so I'm on vacation. I have some time to do these hangouts in the middle of the day. This is going to be a brief hangout. I want to thank the couple of people that are tuning in right now. And before I get started, I wanted to let you all know that I plan to do a Google Hangout in the future. It's probably going to be next week. I'm still working on the dates, but I'm reaching out to some YouTubers so that we could have a joint discussion with men and women talking about rebuilding Black relationships, Black love in the Black community. So I hope you all can join me. I've been reaching out to some YouTubers. I've reached out. Well, I haven't reached out to them lately for this particular hangout, but I plan on doing that today. I'm going to reach out to Lashid For You, Nelly B. I'm also going to reach back out to Chris Miller. Hopefully, Voltron Black will be able to join. And some other people. I reached out to Nizzo, the artist. I think that's his name. I reached out to him. I want to get him involved. Hopefully, he'll be able to join. So far, I haven't received a response to my prior invitations, but I plan on sending out more invitations. I want to have at least 3 men and 3 women. We may have more than that, but that's the least that I want to have so that we can have an engaging discussion about these relationship issues that are very important. And also, in addition to that, I want to talk about like a video that I recently did called I Am Pro-Black. You know, this is just some pre-discussion before we get into the topic for this video, but I did a video entitled I Am Pro-Black, and I made comments about hair, you know, briefly. I only spent like less than a few seconds talking about, you know, hair and all this and that. And that generated a lot of controversy. There were a lot of people commenting on that. You know, one person even did a video where they were making all these little subliminal disses and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I just found it to be funny. You know, that little video was funny to me. You know, that people would make all kinds of assumptions about what I was saying in that video that, you know, that's not accurate. So I may do a whole hangout just on hair, like just focusing on the politics of Black hair, Black women's hair. So y'all can look out for that. I may just do that tonight. I may just go live and just do it tonight and just, you know, hash out all these issues, like actually go through the comments to my video and respond to some video that somebody posted where they made some comments, but I may not respond to it because I don't want to blow it up bigger than what it is. But if you all can let me know in the chat room if you can hear me okay before I get into the subject for this video, you know, I would appreciate it. I have a couple of people tuning in right now. But yeah, I may have to really talk about that whole issue of hair because I just touched on it. And apparently, like, people got all into their feelings, man. And it was just like a brief couple of seconds long comment, man. And it's amazing, like, the shaming tactics that people use in response to like somebody just asserting their opinion about the issue of people embracing their natural beauty and stuff like that. But anyway, y'all can look out for that. I may do that tonight, as I said before. But for this video right here, I want to talk about Doug Jones' victory over Roy Moore. As you all know, there was a special election in Alabama for the U.S. Senate. Jeff Sessions resigned from his position in order to be the U.S. Attorney, and that left open a special spot in the U.S. Senate. So you had the special election, and Doug Jones, the Democrat, defeated Republican Roy Moore. Now, as people know, Roy Moore had come under fire because of all these allegations of sexual harassment and sexual abuse. In fact, he's accused of being a child molester. Like, some of these women that have raised allegations against him say that he sexually assaulted them or engaged in inappropriate contact with them when they were like 14 years old. Some of them were as young as 14 years old. So that had a huge impact on the election. It affected how this election came out. And the sad thing is, even though he had that controversy, even though you had this man who was accused uh, child molester, a pedophile, this guy still received a substantial amount of votes. The victory was razor thin, according to the CNN. It was like a very small margin of victory, only by 2 percentage points. So that means a lot of people didn't even care about these child molestation allegations. They didn't care about his abuse of women and all that kind of stuff. They put politics over women. You know, as far as they're concerned, they couldn't care less about white women or just women in general. And then you had his wife, you know, make some statement about like dealing with this issue of racism in his campaign. And she was talking about like how people accused him of hating Jews and this and that. And she said, well, we don't hate Jews because one of our lawyers is a Jew. I mean, this is how ignorant that campaign was. And, you know, it expresses their prejudice and all that kind of stuff. And then the guy made those statements about slavery. And I'm sure that that helped bring out more people to vote against him, more people in the black community. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later. But despite all these allegations against this guy, you know, despite all these women accusing him of abusing them and stuff like that, you had the president of the United States decide to put his name behind this man, put his energy behind this man, publicly support a damn pedophile. That's what our country has become. That's what this country has become under Trump. You know, he's supporting a damn pedophile in order to maintain a seat in the U.S. Senate. And now that this election went in a way that he didn't want, all of a sudden he's saying that he knew that Roy Moore would lose the election. If he knew that, why would he invest all his time and energy publicly supporting him? Why would he invest his brand into supporting this guy? But anyway, I want to go into this in a little bit more detail. Like, so Doug Jones won this election due to the black vote. The black vote made it possible for this man to win. You know, this is a very close, it was a very close election. You know, he won by 2 percentage points, and African Americans overwhelmingly supported Doug Jones in this election. According to a CNN exit poll, 28% of voters in the election were going to be African American, even though African Americans only make up 26% of the population. That means that a large turnout of African Americans came out. Like in this article also pointed out, this article in the Atlantic pointed out how there were long lines in black communities. There was a large, significant voter turnout in black counties, predominantly black counties. And you also had civil rights organizations coming in. You had celebrities and politicians, you know, prominent politicians like Cory Booker come to Alabama to campaign for Doug Jones. So because of that, you had this election result. I think you had this large African-American turnout that had a major effect. And also these civil rights organizations had awareness campaigns where they were pushing and providing information about voter ID requirements. They were registering voters, even ex-offenders. So because of that, you had a large African-American turnout, which was probably decisive in this election. 28% of voters were African-Americans. You can't tell me that that didn't help decide this election. So that's one thing. And you even had like somebody like Charles Barkley come out and support Doug Jones. I mean, Charles Barkley, you know, I've done plenty of videos on my I Declare War channel and on this channel about Charles Barkley and his track record of cooning and tap dancing and all that stuff. But he realized that it would just be stupid. Even Charles Barkley realized how stupid it would make Alabama look if they were to vote for a damn child molester to be a U.S. senator. You know, someone who was a misogynist, somebody who has no respect for women. So even Charles Barkley understood the importance of defeating this guy, Roy Moore. So I have to commend Charles Barkley and all those other people that came there to rally the African American vote behind Doug Jones. And now that Doug Jones has been elected, due in a large part to the black vote, it's very important that black people leverage that influence and make sure that our issues are put first and foremost when it comes to uh, that senator. Make sure that he lives out his promises. This guy has a good track record. I mean, he's has a record of prosecuting the KKK in Alabama and other things. So it's important that these organizations and these individuals in the black community hold this man, Doug Jones, accountable, make sure that he carries out his campaign promises to the black community. Peace, Doug. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to you. So, yeah, I just think that that's very important that we hold Doug Jones accountable, given the fact that our vote was decisive. And that reminds me of what Brother Malcolm X said. He talked about the importance of the black vote. He talked about how in these presidential elections in particular, how a lot of times the vote is split between, the white conservatives and the white liberals and stuff like that. And often the black community can be a decisive factor in these elections. And I think that that proved true in Alabama. The black vote was decisive. And that brings me to the point of how important it is for each and every one of us to register to vote and to actually vote in these elections. And even more important than actually voting, we need to put forth candidates, support candidates financially that support our agenda. Make sure that we have our agenda set. And many groups do have a political agenda that they put before these politicians, but we need to do that. We need to run candidates for office, support candidates that support our agenda, and punish those candidates that don't support our agenda. So, that's something that we need to follow up on. And I hope people hold this man accountable. Also, an important factor in this election is the role of women. 57% of women voted for Doug Jones over Roy Moore. Only 41% of women voted for Roy Moore. And I'm just wondering, like, what were the 41% thinking that actually voted for Roy Moore? I mean, here you have a man that's accused of abusing all these women, accused of sexually molesting teenage girls. But yet you got 41% of women that had no problem voting for this guy. So, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get how you had all these women vote for Donald Trump, a man who's been accused of sexual misconduct by over a dozen women, a man who boasts and bragged about sexually assaulting women. So, yeah, I mean, it's just funny how, like, a lot of these women, they will put their politics and their race above their gender. Their gender. As far as they're concerned, their gender is less important. They don't care about these women's issues. They don't care about women being sexually abused and sexually exploited and all that kind of stuff. And they'll go ahead and support this guy. But women were decisive in this election. 57% of them voted for Doug Jones. And it's a great thing that you had women and you had African Americans make the difference in this election. Now, before I close out, I want to talk about the significance of this election. The main reason why this is significant is because of the number of votes in the Senate. Now, the Republicans have less control over the Senate. Now it's a 49-51 vote split between the parties. So you have 49 Democrats and you'll have 51 Republicans. That means that it will be harder for Donald Trump to pass his right-wing agenda in the Congress. So that's a huge development. That is something that is very significant. Also, another thing about this election that's significant is that this is a huge rebuke of Donald Trump and everything he stands for. And the thing about this rebuke that makes it so significant is that it comes from a Republican district, a Republican state. a state that hasn't voted for a Democrat for U.S. Senate. I think it was like in 24 or 25 years. But they have rebuked Donald Trump and they have gone out of their way to vote for a Democrat for U.S. Senate. So despite Donald Trump campaigning for this guy, putting his neck out there for this guy, putting his name out there for this guy, the people of Alabama decided not to vote for Roy Moore. And that's a huge defeat to Donald Trump and everything that he stands for. Also, it may be a sign for what is to come in the midterm elections. We need to realize just how important the midterm elections are. And again, I can't stress it enough. If you are not registered to vote, you should be registered to vote. Too often people only vote in these presidential elections. We need to realize that these midterms are very important because the members of Congress are the ones that help pass laws. They help pass, the president's agenda. So if we have the right people in Congress, we can prevent a lot of these right-wing laws from being enacted. Laws to give tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans, to these wealthy corporations, while giving the middle class and poor people virtually nothing or a few crumbs from the table. Getting rid of the Affordable Care Act and cutting vital social programs like food stamps and Section 8 and stuff like that, going after affirmative action. So it's very important that we have the right people in Congress. So we need to take these elections seriously, these midterm elections, and I hope that this is a sign for the direction of the midterms. Because if you have Donald Trump's own base reject him, like his base is this, these Southern right-wing people, and if they reject him, then that may be a sign for more people to reject his agenda and reject him in Congress, reject Republicans who are running for Congress. And I hope that that's the case. So I'm going to look through some of these comments before I move on to some more commentary. Shout out to Sincere. Peace to you. Yeah, and then only Elisa W said, I get it. White women are about white supremacy. It's sad that many black men keep uplifting for Becky. And, that's true, man. You got all these white women that voted for Roy Moore, who's nothing but a racist. Anybody who says that a great time in American history is when slavery occurred, that's a white supremacist. There's no way around that. But yet, you have these women come out and vote for this guy and support this guy. And, these are the same women that these black men are running around. Some of these black men are running around chasing, thinking are better than black women. These white women that align themselves with the white supremacists. But I could go on, and that could be a whole nother video. And then Salty MC Salt says, it looks like this planet is turning in the right direction again. Yeah, and then the Mad Head Doctor said it's a damn shame there's a need to keep explaining the importance of voting. And I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, it's a shame that you have to explain to people how important it is to vote. But that only is necessary because of all these popular personalities here on YouTube who discourage black people from voting, who imply that it's somehow an act of being conscious or being aware by divesting from participating in elections. You have personality after personality that told black people that this election didn't matter. You had Boyce Watkins on here talking about how insignificant the vote was. You had, Tariq Nasheed having a don't vote campaign, a don't vote campaign. You had other personalities on here that I don't even need to name, doing the same. You had people like Umar Johnson on here, doing all these videos, basically discouraging voting. And now these same people are complaining about Donald Trump being a white supremacist. But yet when they had an opportunity to prevent him from being elected, they told black people that the vote didn't matter. They told black people all this mumbo jumbo about conspiracies. And many of these people talked about how the power elite would put Hillary Clinton in the White House. And they were proven wrong. But yet people still follow these people. They still follow these people. They want to complain about Donald Trump being a white supremacist. But when they had a chance to stop him, they did nothing. I mean, it is a disgrace that you have to explain to people the importance of voting. I mean, that's something you learn in elementary school, how important it is to vote. I mean, how many documentaries have we seen about the sacrifice of our ancestors and our elders? You know, those people who were beaten, you know, hosed down, shot and killed so that we could have the right to vote. There was a reason why those white supremacists did not want black people to vote, because they knew there was power in the right to vote. The whole system of Jim Crow couldn't maintain itself if black people in the South were able to vote. And they knew this, so they did everything that they could to prevent black people from voting. And even today, they are doing what they can to try to suppress the black vote with these strict voter registration laws, you know, by cutting back on early voting, by making it harder to register to vote, by requiring IDs and all this other stuff, and by going after the Voting Rights Act in the U.S. Supreme Court. By striking down Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. These people understand the importance of the vote. And that's why they are doing everything that they can to suppress the black vote and other so-called minority votes. But yet you have these people that are supposed to be all enlightened and educated, you know, so conscious and so woke, telling black people to fall back to sleep and not even participate in the electoral process. It's a disgrace, man. It's an absolute disgrace that you have to explain the importance of voting in this time and age. But I won't quit. You know, I'm going to keep on staying on here talking about how we need to vote and how each and every one of us needs to be registered. And that's something you can do today. If you're not registered to vote, you should go to your board of elections and register to vote. It's a very simple process. And you should be educated about the importance of these elections. Study these candidates, know their positions on the issues, and when they have their town hall meetings, go to those meetings and raise the questions that need to be raised about where they stand on issues of importance to the black community. Now, the other thing that I wanted to stress before I close out this video is just how this is a rebuke of Steve Bannon. You know, Steve Bannon is the one, according to all these reports, who encouraged Donald Trump to support Roy Moore. You know, he's the one who pushed this. And now everybody is dumping on Steve Bannon right now. You have the Wall Street Journal bashing him for making this blunder of a decision. You have, you know, Representative King I think he's out of New York, bashing Steve Bannon, saying that people shouldn't even take him seriously. And I hope that because of this failure in Alabama, I hope that he becomes marginalized so that he has less influence in the Republican Party and in politics in general. Because, you know, even though the Republican Party is a right-wing party, this guy, Steve Bannon, helped create an atmosphere that normalized racism within the Republican Party, that normalized, you know, Nazism and white supremacy within the Republican Party. And I just hope that his voice gets crushed. You know, I hope that he is marginalized, that he is not, you know, as influential. And I hope that this like raises, you know, a lot of concerns among Republicans. And I hope that a lot of them come to their senses and push him out of a sphere of influence. You know, I hope that he has very little power because, you know, he's pushing these right-wing fanatics and white supremacists to run for office. And I hope that he's defeated by his own, you know, by other Republicans. So, yeah, I mean, those are some of the points that I wanted to make. You know, this is a great victory for, you know, progressives. You know, the fact that you have a Republican state vote for a Democratic U.S. senator and stuff like that. You know, this is a great thing, you know, and it helps balance out the makeup of the Senate. And hopefully this will make it more difficult for Donald Trump to pass his agenda. So I'm going to go through you all's comments before I close out. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so Doug asked if we would be better off if Clinton was in office. And I'm going to say yes. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer, man. It doesn't get any worse than Donald Trump. You know, although most people know my position, I did not support Hillary Clinton during the election. I supported Bernie Sanders during the primaries. And after he lost the primaries, I voted for Jill Stein. And I made it clear that I was Bernie or bust. You know, I made it that clear. My position is clear. You know, I have serious concerns about the Clintons, which is spelled out in a lot of my videos. My concern about like their support of the crime bill, and that's a policy that helped lead to mass incarceration. I have serious concerns about so-called welfare reform under the Clintons and other issues, and a whole host of other issues. So although I have concerns about Hillary Clinton and I didn't vote for her, I think that she would be a better president than Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is a disaster. It doesn't get any worse than him. I mean, this guy has zero political experience. This guy is pushing through a right-wing agenda that is detrimental to Black people. I've, run through the laundry list before of the things that he has said that's racist, of the policies that he supports that is racist. This man supports stop and frisk. This man supports racial profiling. This man condoned attacking Black protesters at his rallies. This man is trying to use his Justice Department to eliminate affirmative action. This man is against consent decrees entered with police departments, consent decrees designed to end discriminatory policing practices around the country. This man has condoned police brutality by encouraging police to rough up suspects. This is Donald Trump. This man called Black athletes that participate in protests, he called them sons of bitches. That's your president. This man encouraged New York State to reenact the death penalty in order to kill the Central Park rape suspects who were later exonerated. And to this day, this man has not apologized. This man has an abysmal record. I mean, this is a man who was sued twice by the Justice Department for housing discrimination. This is a man who wants to get rid of Section 8, a provision that makes it possible for low-income people to have housing, many of whom are African American. This man wants to cut food stamps, a program that feeds the hungry, feeds poor people. So yeah, I mean, anybody, damn near anybody would be a better president than Donald Trump. And Clinton certainly would have been a better president than Donald Trump. All those things that I mentioned about Donald Trump supporting, I know for a fact that Hillary Clinton opposed those things. And Hillary Clinton is a problematic character for all the reasons I've said before. But anybody, even Donald Duck, would be a better president than Donald Trump. So, yeah, man, that's a no-brainer to me. And I hear your concern about like what happened in Libya. Excuse me. I've done a video about that issue, and I pointed out Obama's role, and I didn't really mention Clinton, but yeah, I mean they definitely had a role with what's happening in Libya right now. So that's a valid point, and concerns about Hillary Clinton are valid. So let me proceed through these comments before I close out. And so Lafayette said that voting does not make a difference. White supremacy won the elections. Yeah, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but voting does make a difference. Anybody who can see the difference between the Obama administration and the Trump administrations understands how important elections are. You know, if you saw the election results in Alabama, you see how important voting is. You know, this margin of victory was only about 2 percentage points. So that tells you how important elections are. Shout out to Jalen. Let's see. Okay, so Ryan Moss says, what's significant about the black vote is we tend to vote as a block. And, you know, he talked about how other groups don't vote like that. And he talked about, like, at the most, it'd be like a 60 percentage point for one candidate for other groups of people, like, for instance, white people. And he said that what we need to do is learn how to hold people accountable. And yeah, that's definitely true. We need to hold these politicians accountable. We can't just be satisfied with having somebody that's in there that's a Democrat, you know. And it's not really even about which party they belong to. It's about the agenda. It's about whether or not they are in alignment with our agenda in our community. That's the thing that matters. And then this person Lafayette said it doesn't matter if black people vote or not. White supremacy decides all elections. I just think that that kind of mentality is why you still have to explain to people why voting matters. And I'm not going to, like, you know, repeat myself. I explained why voting matters in this video, and I've done tons of videos. So, um, you know, I'm not going to explain myself again. You know, people understand. Most people get it. Most people understand why voting matters. Most people understand the difference between a Donald Trump and an Obama, or the difference between a Donald Trump and even somebody like Hillary Clinton. You know, they understand the difference between having a white supremacist like Steve Bannon as a political strategist, chief political strategist in the White House. And, you know, they understand the difference between that and having somebody else in there who doesn't support those kind of views. Donald Trump is openly embracing white supremacy, but yet you have fools out here talking about elections don't matter. I just don't have patience for that, man. I don't have patience for that kind of rhetoric. And Ryan Moss says the real problem is no one truly fights for black people. You know, that I disagree with. There are people in Congress that do advocate for black people and our issues. Um, but a lot of people don't advocate as strong as they should. And I think that we do need to demand um, a lot from our black elected officials. And we need to demand a lot for our people. So, you know, so I agree with you on that. Okay, hold on, y'all. 1 second. Okay, Doug, I already mentioned the issue of Libya. Yeah, that's a good point, Brian Moss. I think that Bernie Sanders probably would have beat Trump. I definitely think that Bernie Sanders was a better candidate against Donald Trump. But the problem is the DNC, they were in Hillary's pocket the whole time, and they were, you know, conspiring against Bernie Sanders. So that's a big part of the reason why we had those election results. Yeah, that's a good point, Doug. We shouldn't be loyal to either party. It should be about playing both sides of the fence. We should be focused on our agenda instead of being focused on loyalty to either one of these parties. But the fact of the matter is, like, in this day and age, the Republican Party is so openly hostile to Black people's interests that there's not much room for negotiation with the Republican Party. They don't care about the Black vote. They don't care about Black people's interests. They're openly hostile to our interests. So it's very difficult for us to leverage both of these parties and negotiate a better position. I think that what we need to do is look towards third parties as an option and try to um, increase the political strength of those parties by being more engaged in those parties and being more supportive of more progressive candidates. I think that's what we need to do instead of just simply focus on those two parties. Because as long as the Democratic Party can take the Black vote for granted and they can assume that Black people are just going to come out and vote for the Democrats, um, as long as that exists, we won't have much influence over that party. Our interests would be pushed aside, to support the interests of other people who actually make the Democrats fight for their vote. So just bear with me a second. I'm looking through these comments. Yeah, that's a good point, Lafayette. I wonder what they're going to say about this election in Alabama. Like all these people that push that don't vote agenda. I wonder what they're going to have to say about that. I'm interested in seeing that. Yeah, that's a good point. August Dreams. I mean, people who don't believe in voting, they, I mean, they should just speak for themselves, like you said, and not speak for on behalf of Black people. And the thing is, like, it's one thing for somebody to personally take a position that they don't want to vote. It's quite another thing for them to actually encourage other people not to vote, especially when they have a large audience like a Boyce Watkins. This guy has over 100,000 subscribers. He's regularly featured on news programs and stuff like that. His voice matters. So when he tells Black people that elections aren't that significant and aren't that big of a deal, then what he's doing is helping those people who want to suppress the Black vote. He is helping to suppress Black voters, and people like him are helping to suppress Black voters. You don't need a voter ID law. You don't need Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act to be stricken in order to suppress the Black vote when you have people like a Boyce Watkins basically downplaying the significance of the vote. When you have, a Tariq Nasheed launching a don't vote campaign. I mean, these people are acting as Black people's worst enemy by encouraging Black people not to vote. They are basically disrespecting the ancestors and elders by encouraging people not to vote. All right, so hold on one second, y'all. Yeah, those are great points, Lane Lloyd. Yeah, somehow I'm going to have to get my chat room to show up on the screens, so everybody can see it after the video's uploaded, because there's a lot of great commentary in the chat room. And I want to shout out everyone who watched this video. I appreciate your support. And I encourage you all to support this channel by watching the videos, by liking the videos, by sharing the videos, and by making your generous donations to the channel. All your donations will go towards improving the quality of this channel, New Possibilities. So with that, I'll say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Thanks for watching.